Others.
Live.
Well, good evening, folks, and welcome to Thursday night Ridgecrest Talk. I'm your host, Al Huey, along with co-host Robert Eierman. And tonight, we have some of the winners of the local election. Our first guest tonight is our newly elected mayor, Miss Peggy Breeden. And you squeaked by.
I did.
Yeah.
I don't
we tried to get you to come down Tuesday night to watch the results come in, and you were reluctant. And even the following day, Wednesday, we couldn't get you because it happens to be a busy day at the swap sheet, I guess.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, because the paper goes out Thursday, so they're kind of busy on Wednesday. So what did you think of how the people reacted and voted?
You know, many people had told me over and over again that you're going to win, and I think it's arrogant and egotistical to assume that because your friends are telling you that, because that is indeed your friends. Total strangers did not come up to me and say you're going to win, so it's kind of like polluting the commentary because you're only hearing from a few people. So when when you asked me if I would come, I said there is no way I'm going to come. I'm a farm girl, and as I think I told you that the chickens all aren't hatched out of those eggs. So
Yeah,
when the eggs are all hatched, I'll come and talk to you. I would not want to do that.
Clearly now they've hatched, and in my memory, I can't ever remember a candidate so, and let me use a political word, so trouncing their competition. I mean, there was 5 other people and yourself, and you garnered almost as many votes as all 5 of them combined.
I think
You need to lift the mic just a little bit more. There you go.
Okay. I think part of that comes from the fact that I was an unknown to some people. They wanted to take a chance on me. To others, it was, I know you personally, professionally, and they wanted to say, let's give her a try. I can only do the best I can, and the others had some issues, good and bad. I had good and bad issues, but they chose to say, let's give her a chance. And I'm proud of that chance. And
You should be.
I don't think, but you got to remember, this is politics, as you called it. And so, quite frankly, today your best friend is your best friend, and tomorrow your best friend can say, Peggy, were you dumber than you know what? And it's easy. And I want to learn from that, because the only way you can know if your public likes what you're doing is if they say so. So I don't want to just see the people who come to say, I don't like what you did, or I think you ought to, or woulda, coulda, shoulda is great. But I also want to hear, we like what you did here. And I don't want to hear it just myself. I want you to talk to everybody in the council. I want you to talk to your friends and neighbors. And I'd like to see you come down sometime to City Council and say, good job, guys. You as a group did a good job on this particular issue. It helps. It's the only way we know that we're doing it right. It's easy to know when you're doing it wrong or what the public thinks is wrong. But that's what you got to hear, the good things too.
Well, I admire you for being so anticipative of that. And I hate to burst your bubble, but it ain't going to happen. You will hear from the people who are not happy about a current situation, whether it be a vote or an issue that's being considered, but you will rarely hear someone come down and take the time to tell you that you're doing a good job. So
Now, you might get an email or a phone call.
Oh, yeah.
Or those friends of yours that you were talking about.
Right. But that's certainly my observation. That's not a realistic expectation.
Well, we'll see.
Now,
Only time will tell,
Well,
because I believe our community cares.
I know
but
they
I
do.
think they care also, not just about the bad, but the good. And I think they're willing to speak up and stand. So public, prove me right or wrong. That's all I ask.
Yeah.
All right.
Nobody's going to come down there with ill intentions. They come down because they feel very adamant and passionate about their side of the issue.
I agree.
And all they want to do is communicate that. In the past, they've not been received very well. Al and I can personally attest to that.
I've seen a lot of people attest to that. But I think it's an opportunity for all of us to talk. There is nobody who's been blessed with superior wisdom. There is nobody who has all the experience or all the knowledge, and we're all going to learn from each other. And that doesn't mean that those people who have an issue, their issue is wrong. Absolutely not. The only way we learn is from listening to other people. Clearly, we're going to have to make our own decisions, but it's based on the input from both the people who think we're doing good, the people who think we're doing badly. And I expect to hear from both of them, because that's the only way we're going to know. I expect staff to give us input also. I expect staff to give us all the knowledge they can share, because again, they have more experience together than all of us
Oh yeah,
will
you got to
ever
rely
have.
on them.
Oh, yes.
And so we need to listen and learn from them. But I think most of all, we need to understand that this is an opportunity to say, we heard you. We're going to do something. We're going to make this community what it can be, what it ought to be, some of what it used to be. It bothers me when I hear people say, but just like on the Daily Independent, we were the top top 3 cities in the Northern California. It doesn't matter whether it was northern or southern. The fact remains that some outsiders came here and looked at us and said, you know what? And we didn't recognize it. I want us to look at this city like when somebody new comes in and says, look at all this air, look at all this beautiful, beautiful space. Look at the moon tonight. Go outside. There's a lot of places in California where you're not going to see that beautiful moon tonight. Look at the people who care and do and work to make the community better. Look what Ridge Project does. Look what DART does. Look what all the nonprofits
We're
that do
running out of
those
time
things.
before we go to our break here. We want to thank you for coming down. Okay.
Okay.
And we are going to have you back on in the future.
Okay.
We're going to want to talk to you.
We have other people here ready already?
Well, we're just going to have to.
Yeah, we can take her into the next one.
Oh, okay.
We don't have anybody else here lined up.
Then we got to go to break. Stick with us for a few more minutes.
Okay.
All right. We'll be back with more Ridgecrest talk and talking to some of the newly elected officials.
And welcome back to the Thursday evening edition of Ridgecrest Talk. I'm Robert Eierman, along with co-host Al Huey, and we have the pleasure this evening of having with us Miss Peggy Breeden, our mayor-elect. And we've been talking with her about the election and about her experience. And did you want to have the first question?
Well, we were talking off break. It was like nationally there was a big message sent, okay? It was pretty obvious with the change in the Senate and an addition of Republicans to the House. What do you think the voters here were saying, the way that they voted, in that we have 3 new elected officials on the city council? And talking to Mr. Wicknick yesterday,
yes,
he says he recalls that only happened once before, sometime back in the 80s, that a majority of newly elected people sat on the council. So I was just wondering what you thought the voters were saying, and you said you're not a mind reader, but obviously they were saying something.
Well, clearly it doesn't take a genius or a political scientist to look at it and not recognize that something was said. My biggest concern is not what the margins were or the fact that they were new, but what do you want us to do? Because all of us came with similar but different ideas of how things are going to be done and how we would like to see things happen, what we think the city and the community ought to be doing.
I can tell you that having done the forums, that I noticed one thing that all three of those people that got elected did, and that's that they all said that they will listen to the people. And I think that that's the message that the voters latched onto, and I think that that's what they want to have happen. Example, in the past, people come down to the council and they take the opportunity during public comment to talk about something, not on the agenda. And also in the past, it's always been, thank you, and there's never a response from the council. And so I'm hoping that with you as mayor and with the other two council members all having said we want to listen to the people, that will be a thing of the past.
Well, let me respond a little bit, because having served on the airport district under the Ralph M. Brown Act, having served on the water district under the Ralph M. Brown Act, you are specifically instructed, at least I have been in the past. I'll wait to see what the city's attorney instructs us, but you may not respond to items that
is
are
absolutely 1,000%. I cannot let you go on.
Let me finish, though. Let me finish. We were told we could not respond. We can answer, we can listen, but to say, well, it's this way. You can say, I want to look at it, I want to think, I want to talk, this is the way it is.
You have been told absolutely falsely. The purpose of the Ralph M. Brown Act is to have open communication between the government officials and the citizenry. In fact, it is encouraged.
I agree.
So
you just can't take action.
You can't. That's
take
right.
Action. But you can say anything you want.
That's right.
You can say, this is so meaningful to me, I'm going to make sure that this gets on a future agenda.
I agree 120%.
You can say
if I can.
anything you want to that person, and you can have as long an interchange as time allows. But in the past, we simply get, thank you.
I have seen that.
And I observed when a person came in and they were worried about slime in the gutters and they hadn't been doing any street cleaning and people were slipping on their bicycles and slipping while walking, and nothing came from the council. However, 3 hours later, in council comments, the situation got addressed and there was a good, reasonable answer. But those ladies that had the question walked out mad as hens saying, those people don't care. So, proof that you care is interchanging with all of those people that take the time and energy to come in and talk to the council.
The difference between what you and I are saying is very minimal. I'm saying you may not, this is what we were told, you may not respond with answers. You can wait, let me finish.
I just can't stand
Let me finish it.
I heard that too many times.
No, wait a minute. But there is a difference. I think, I know, I believe, those things I think as citizens and as council people we are allowed to say. To say, this is the way it is, I don't think you have the right to do that until you've researched it.
Okay.
Until you've researched
it. But let's say it's something that you knew. Someone says to you, Mayor Breeden, there was an item on the budget and it was for $482,000. Do you know what that is? You can say, absolutely.
I do not know, or okay. I will find it out.
No, what if you know?
Then you may respond. Because that is what you know from
I know exactly what that is. That's this.
Yes.
Right. So I don't want it to be in your head that you cannot respond.
It is not in my head.
Okay.
It is not.
Because we want to
encourage that. Because that's the most important thing we have. How else are we going to hear the people except on those specific subjects that are on the agenda?
And the same thing happens when you do get to an agenda item and someone comes up and they make a point and the council sits there like 5 automatons and say nothing in response. Absolutely nothing. Until the person goes and sits down and then one of them starts berating what that person had to say. And what I'm trying to express is it's so important
I agree.
that we get away from that attitude and approach. That's all.
Yeah. I don't think it's impossible to answer them. It is impossible in my mind to answer if you don't know the answers.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and that's what you say.
But
You
that's an
cannot-
answer. I'm going to look into that and I'll get back to you.
Okay, then we're saying the same thing and that we're not too far apart.
No, we're not
Just
too
a
far
little.
apart.
Okay.
Well, we're going to have to let you go after this. We're getting ready to go to break. You have another meeting to go to.
I do.
And we just want to thank you for coming down. Again, congratulate you.
Thank you.
For the being elected to the mayor.
I hope to come back because you
In a
all have been
landslide,
gracious.
you were elected.
Yes, we
In
are.
a mandate landslide, you were elected.
Yeah.
And we're all proud of you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to
I'm
go
proud
to
of my
another
people.
break, and we'll be back after this break with more. Join us right here on Ridgecrest Talk.
Proud.
Welcome back to Ridgecrest Talk, the Thursday night version. Again, I'm Al Huey along with co-host Robert Eierman, and we invited some of the newly elected officials down. Evidently, they had some problems because we've just finished interviewing newly elected mayor, and the only one that has shown up so far is the newly elected school board member, former school board member, Amy Castillo-Covert. And we want to thank you for coming down.
Thank you very much for having me.
So, what did you think of the election, the campaign, vote Tuesday, and then you were telling me you were up late watching the results come in. I was up late too, so.
It was one of the more interesting ones that I recall.
Other than the first one?
Well, the first one was
That was pretty historic.
that was
huh?
pretty historic,
Yeah.
but it was a very different campaign. I'm not sure that I have been on a ballot with such a diverse group of people and their interest in what they're hoping to accomplish by running for an office.
So you were reelected, Mr. Rockwell.
Mr. Rockwell was reelected, and
Mr.
Mr. Johnson.
was
Johnson
elected.
is a returning former.
Correct.
Yes, he had served
Correct.
before.
When
Yes,
was it
correct.
he last served?
He served through 2012.
Okay,
And
so
when
2
we
years
had the
ago.
last election, we were downsizing. The board was downsizing.
Oh, yeah,
so
that's
that
right.
one we downsized by one seat. And then this one we downsized by
So now
another
the
seat.
board is at
So now we have a
5.
5-member board,
Okay.
which is pretty consistent with most of the rest of the county
Yeah.
and throughout the state. But we were trying to kind of get more towards what the county was doing.
So I'm just curious, does Randsburg, they don't still have a single,
No, they do not. That
council
changed.
member.
No, that changed
See,
with school board.
school
That
so now
changed
they get
this
to
year.
vote for any and all of them?
They have actually always been able to.
Oh, okay.
Randsburg could always vote for anyone on the ballot. We, on the other hand, could not all vote for Randsburg. Randsburg could only vote for the only people that could vote for the Randsburg position were people that were residents of Randsburg, but they could vote for all the rest of us.
Okay.
So,
And that was the same with Inyokern, I suspect, then, too.
Inyokern hasn't been its own district it hasn't had its own representative for a number of years, not for the entire time I've been on the board.
Oh, okay.
Actually, since before that. It's always
that's
been the
right.
6 seats, and then the 7th one was Randsburg. And that, I think, was from when they unified. That was one of the things that had been set in place at that time.
Well, do you have any plans for your new term? Anything on your list that you want to try to get checked off?
Just continuing on, we've got those 2 big construction projects that we're working on getting going. So I'm very relieved and grateful that I'll get to continue working on those. And I'm looking forward, hopefully, if that's my fellow board members' decision to continue working with the Impact Aid community on continuing to secure the federal funding that we get for our federally impacted students through the Navy and through the civil service, and through our we also get it for our BLM land.
And I can't let this opportunity go by without asking you about what your thoughts are on Prop 2.
I'm not at this exact moment prepared to discuss that.
Oh, okay. It's going to put a hardship, I think, on our, not only our school district, but many school districts across the state. I just don't understand. I really think it was an end run by this legislature of the state to try to find more money for themselves, is what I think it was. But again, you can play safe
Thank you.
here.
I'm not prepared to.
Okay. And isn't there legislation to already in process to countermand that aspect of Prop 2, where they insisted that you have a smaller reserve?
There is discussion about that.
Okay.
I think there's an effort statewide, isn't there?
There is.
Yeah.
There is. The only thing that I would say on that is that in the past, our district having the reserve that we as a board decided to have is over the last number of years when we've gone through the financial hardships that all districts have faced, especially in California, having those slightly higher reserves is what allowed us to not have to do as many cuts to programs. It's what allowed us to maintain our programs, maintain our services for our students, maintain job positions. We did have that one awful time where we had to lay off a horrendous number of teachers because of our March 15th deadline, where you have to file pink slips by a certain date, or if you don't, then the following year you're obligated to continue those salaries, whether you have the students to help pay for it or not. But by the end of that summer, if I recall correctly, we were able to bring most of those teachers back. Had we not had those reserves, we would have been in the same position that a number of other districts were.
Robert, you said it was an initiative. Is it an initiative or a lawsuit? I thought it was a lawsuit.
I thought it was legislation working its way through the California legislature. That's what I had heard. I could be wrong. I didn't make a study of it.
And I think it's all up in the air.
Yeah.
AB 92 or 192 or something, I forget.
All right.
But certainly hope that kind of thing happens so that you guys won't be put in a untenable position.
Right. And it's just, it's really about helping to help us maintain our local control, where we know our district, we know our community, we know what our needs are better than the state does.
Right.
And we really ought to be.
Well, we want to have you back in the future.
I would love to come back.
To talk to us more about what's going on in our local schools and what plans might be for the coming years. So we want to thank you again for coming down.
Thank you for
We appreciate
inviting
you
us.
being here, and congratulations again.
Thank you. And thank you to Ridgecrest for having the faith and confidence in us to allow us to continue doing the job that we're doing.
All right.
We've been doing. So thank you.
Well, I think that's going to do it for us tonight.
We have an apology. We have an apology. When we were doing the election results, unfortunately, you get so focused on Kern County. I grabbed election results for Kern County, which doesn't correspond with the states. So the difference is that Proposition 47 was a yes vote statewide. It had been a no vote in Kern County. So I want to apologize for misleading anyone with that.
Right. All right. Join us again here next week, Thursday night, same time, same channel. We'll be here. We'll be looking for you.